I think this is going to be one of those episodes. I use this free version of Zoom, which only lasts for 40 minutes, and I've got a feeling there's going to be a part 2. So welcome to the Tear Your Fucking Face Off podcast. This has been such a long time coming. Let me just start by saying that I looked it up. It was August 2022, and it was my 5th episode of my podcast, which I was kind of starting, and I think I stumbled on your work through a Bandcamp, stuck the track on there. You then kindly sent me the whole album and the PDF, and I think I'm going to struggle to find the words here, but I sat through this PDF of lyrics, of snippets of a family kind of and personal story, and your music and the whole package. I literally sat there listening and going through it page by page, and everything, the desperation, the narrative, the loss, the struggle, the unhelpful internal narratives, just everything, your life, my life, it just hit me just so profoundly. I'm welling up now, and I still have that when I listen to the story of No One Part 1, and it's just fantastic musicianship. The way you run off with your keyboard solos and stuff, you know, it's just an album of just blistering perfection. The choirs and the kind of the vocal treatments, the instrumentals, the overlays, the solos. It's just so unique and just so perfect in every way. And I have to thank you for kind of being part of not just kind of a musical journey and as a podcaster, but, you know, as a journey of my soul. And that's where I'd like to start.
Oh my God, like, you always leave me speechless. I really, really appreciate your vision and your passion, because when you are a musician and you put your soul into a work, especially something as personal as these 2 albums have been for me, which is, you know, is literally about me. Knowing that there's at least someone out there that really, really gets what I was trying to convey with it, what I was trying to transmit with, not only with the lyrics, but also with every note that I put in the album. Right? Meeting you that way was absolutely. It gave me so much hope that there were still people out there that could get my music.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
really,
totally.
really appreciate you.
I'm kind of at a point where I'm kind of lost for words. It's just amazing. I think I emailed you back very quickly and was like, I get all of this, and you were like, oh my God. So, it's really good to get that appreciation, and I'm glad that you found it positive. So let's go from the start. So I'm taking you've been musical for some time, perhaps before SIDEQUEST even. So why don't we talk through your kind of musical journey, and then maybe we can perhaps go into the personal journey as much as you're comfortable with sharing. I mean, you've shared it across 2 albums, but I appreciate having a conversation one-to-one might be more difficult.
Yeah, of course. I started this as I started playing guitar. I always had this artistic energy on me growing up, and at first I thought I was gonna be like a comic artist. I loved drawing. But eventually, when I was 15, I started playing guitar, and I found this new energy. Like, I started songwriting, and I found I have far more talent for music than I had for drawing, right? So during those years, on the first years, that like between when I was 15 and I'm talking about 1996, and like the year 2000 or so is where I wrote most of my things. It was an explosion of songwriting back then. Obviously, I wrote more over time, but back then is when I started to settle this project, which I call Epsilon back in the day. It started as a band called Epsilon, then it evolved into Werewolf, which we released one album with a famous metal label in Spain, but that ended really badly. That was a really difficult experience. You know,
Mm.
you go to this world, you know, with the best hopes and the best energy, and but some
Yeah,
people
that's
will knock you down. The reality of it is just. So that was 2013. I decided to change my perspectives and my expectations. So I started SIDEQUEST, which, you know, the name is also about like that. Like, you know, like I'm not gonna do this way anymore. I'm gonna do this side project.
Mm-hmm.
It was still my project. I still wanted to release the albums that I wrote, but my own way. And I'm gonna do it my own way. I'm not gonna depend on labels. I'm not gonna depend on anybody. I'm gonna do them like I want to do them, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when we released Myth and Constellations in 2014, which honestly has been our most successful album. Surprisingly enough, we sold out in Japan, which for me was like, wow, that was a dream.
Wow.
You know, I'm talking about 100 copies. You know, like.
But still, yeah.
And it's a lot in like a day. So it was, wow, okay, this could work, right? And then I moved to the States. So I took like 10 years of not doing much until I, you know, settle here in a new country, and everything is a lot for an immigrant.
Oh, of course, it's a huge upheaval.
And in 2020, when the pandemic, actually 19, at the end of 19, right before the pandemic started, I wanted to continue my musical project, right? And that's when I started working on the Story of No One Part 1. Sadly, pandemic hit. So that the possibility of working with the musicians that I actually did, like my vocalist and things like that, went out the window. So Story of No One Part 1 was sung completely by me, which was unexpected. I'm more of a guitarist than a singer.
Wow. The vocals. Well, I'm glad you've kind of touched that, and sorry to interrupt you.
No,
but have you ever listened to a band called Marillion, like in the early days?
Really, I know of them, yes.
So Fish, he's got quite a sort of that tortured Scottish tone to him, but when he's laid back a bit, and it's the less of the tortured emotion, but still emotion, is softer tones. And the way your keys and your guitar solos kind of run off, you know, they have this segment and then it kind of runs off into melodious. Like Marillion are one of my favorite like bands, and it's really hard to capture that emotion and how that music feels and makes you kind of tingle and everything like that. And Marillion is also very kind of personal to me in terms of life experiences. And there's lots of funny, weird stories I can tell you about that, where Marillion have popped up in the most unlikely of places. One of them being in a prison library, you know, where everyone listens to rap because it's prison, you know. And then in the library, this seat, and it wasn't one of their most famous albums. It was the fifth one, which didn't do as well, but nobody talks about. But it's the one I love the most, and it just appeared. It was just there, and I'm like, how in all of this? Well, I'm completely deprived of music. But yes, I segue. Yes, so yeah, your vocal sort of approach, and I think because you're really unleashing your kind of soul into your music, that way, one, you've surprised yourself as a vocal. It's amazing what we can actually achieve when we're in that channeling mode and being so authentic. But yeah, it reminded me of that in so many ways.
Actually, I think you have a point, because I wasn't so sure back then about my vocals. So I think the mixing, I kind of hid my vocals behind big choirs and things like that. And during the remaster that we just released, and after recording the Story of No One Part 2, where I felt more comfortable with my vocals, and I was like, okay, I think this sounds well, this doesn't, so let's change it. And I was like, okay, actually it's not bad, you know, like I think how it sounds. So that's another reason why I wanted to remaster Story of No One Part 1. Is like, no, let's not hide these vocals. They're decent, they're good, and they are what I wanted for the songs, which I think is what helped me the most, because I had these songs for so long planned to be released that I really knew how I wanted to sound, both musical and vocal wise. So I think that helped me have a very, very defined way of how I wanted to sing them and how I wanted them to sound. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, it's the remaster. I've listened to. Actually, I have to confess, I haven't made my way through the second album. For those kind of watching, you kindly sent me it before it was released, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to dive onto that. And then I decided to start this label, and then, of course, everything that I'm doing, video editing, music stuff, I have to listen to music. So again, you popped up the other night. And I said, oh, okay, out of guilt, I'm going to listen to it now. And I got about 4 tracks into it whilst working. And then I went to something else that required audio. And then the days have gone by, so I haven't made it through. But I have listened to the remaster a couple of times, and it sounds phenomenal. The first one was an amazing job. But how you've just created extra space and nuance without changing a great deal, it's just it hits me all over again, you know.
Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted to match the quality level that we reached with the Story of No One Part 2 that we just released, because I also learned more things about producing and mixing and whatnot. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna release Part 2 now. Is Part 1 up to par sound wise, right? So I think it was important for me to re-release Part 1 on a similar level as Part 2 that I think you will enjoy when you get to it. There's also a PDF similar to
I saw
Part 1 that you can see a little bit how things are about and what things are about. But yeah, like I really wanted to be like, okay, I don't really have more planned albums in the future. I'm not saying they won't be. I'm working on some things, but original albums, I have no plans yet. So I wanted these 2 to sound as best as I could, so I could like listen to them for the years to come without feeling, I wish I could have changed that. Hey, I wish I could have, which is something that a lot of artists sometimes suffer, right? Like,
I'm going through a vocal journey because I've always done instrumental, and that was all fine, and then now I'm kind of sort of learning to kind of sort of try my hand at the production, and then I've been kind of doing the vocal stuff as well. And I kind of have a mentality, I get caught up in everything, and it's like just finish one project, move on to the next. That's kind of always been my like ADHD vibe. And because if I sit there and go, I don't like the sound of that, I'll forever tinker. So my strategy is just put something up, move on, make it better, and learn that way. But I would love to get to the day where I can redo everything and go, yeah, I'm satisfied. That's my legacy. Yeah, pay for it to stay on there after I'm dead. You know.
And it's so funny because like there's 2 types of musicians. There's some that is like, whatever is done. Don't touch it, right? Like you go to Metallica, right? They are always asked about how about remastering and Justice for All, so we can hear the bass and a better equalization. They're like, no. That happened how it happened, and we don't ever touch it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a way of doing things. I admire it, but usually most artists that I know, usually we have trouble listening to things that we have done in the past because, things evolve and technology evolves and resources change. So we are more able to release things in closer to the artist's initial vision, so we are always like revisiting stuff, and the fans usually hate it.
That's it, because it doesn't sound like it did back in the day, because the actual sound and the vibe of it kind of gives you the in the moment feeling as well. So whilst the band are kind of, they've done their bit in the moment and then they look at it more technically later and want to tinker with it, they kind of maybe lose a little bit of sight that the listener, the fan, also listen to it in the moment. So that's kind of, you wouldn't want to go back to an earlier relationship and tinker with the memory. You'd go, I'd have it as it was. Yeah,
And it's funny, I feel that way with one of the albums that you have in your background, Sonata Arcticas Eclipticas.
Yes.
That album for me is
perfect.
Just perfection.
Yeah.
That album is perfection, and they released this remastered change. I hated it so much.
Yeah, absolutely same. I was going to say, yes, that's another for one of my favorite bands, clearly, and the album itself as well. And your music kind of has that kind of vibe to it as well.
They're a big inspiration of mine.
Yeah. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. The keys work and stuff, and the guitars solos and all this kind of stuff.
And I'm sure their new version is closer to their original vision and whatnot, but the fans already know it a certain way. So it's always this struggle between the artist vision and the fan vision, right? But so far, I think the the feedback I got is good. I have been enjoying very much the product that I release, which is what I release it most. Obviously, I want people to hear it. I want people to enjoy my music as well. That's why I'm releasing it to the world. But my main goal is for me to enjoy what I'm doing and listen to it and be like, I'm so proud of it. And I am.
You should be. Totally. You should be. Totally. So for those that kind of are just watching this podcast off the cuff and haven't heard all of the album or any of the album and don't have the PDF in front of them, firstly, I'd say these two albums are a start to finish. It's a concept. It's an album. You can't dive in. You can dive in and get a track here and there, but I tell you, the experience is so rich. I can't express that enough. If you have the time, or if you don't have the time, make the fucking time, and and give it that whole listen through. But to those that to encourage them further, what could you sort of would you be happy to sort of say about the story of No One, parts 1 and 2, in explanation form?
So basically, it's mixing a little of autobiography and a little bit of fiction. So my main inspiration is this children's book that we had back in kindergarten, and it was this book called. It was the translation is similar. It's the story of no one. It was like the story of nobody, kind of. It's like a literal translation, and it was about this kid that was called either nobody or no one, however, ninguno in Spanish. And the joke of the book was that people were like, we are playing with no one, right? And they were playing with the kid, but they were saying his name was no one. So it sounded like they were playing alone, right? Like if the kid didn't exist. That was like the whole thing of the book. Yeah. So I took inspiration from that and applied it to my own life and, like my own struggles and things, like feeling that, okay, what is my place in the world? My importance in the world and whatnot. So I created this character that is called No One. So I told the story from birth to death, which is the end of Story of No One Part 2. Obviously, it's a little fiction because I don't know how I will die, which is part.
No, but there was a lot of curiosity about that even in the first album. I remember a track that was kind of lyrically kind of expressed. I don't know how I'm going to die. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know how things are gonna go, but I also put a lot of my passions for astronomy and music, and I even have songs about a little meta talking about my musical project as well, which is the first song of the Story of No One Part 2 is called Epsilon, which is my musical project. So I talk about my experiences with it, and Dreams Falling, which is the third track, is about my giving up trying to make it in the music world, but so it's like my dreams are crashing down and that. So I have a lot of meta songs in there because it's about my life. So some things are present, some things are past, and some things are possible futures as well, right? So that's where fiction comes in a little bit, but for the most part they are very, very personal things from me growing up as a probably autistic queer kid in the 80s in Spain, and all my struggles in adulthood until I finally found my place in the world, which is where currently I am in life, and I became someone. So someone is the name of the character after he finds that place in the world, right? Which happens during Story of No One Part 2. That's basically the concept of the album. I really did not have enough time to do it in one album. I really needed to do it in 2 parts, which is why I had too many ideas to put it in just one album.
No. Well, you've always been someone, but I know exactly what you mean. It takes you a while to find yourself. But you are very much someone very special and hugely kind of talented, and I totally appreciate you and your work and your support and for coming on to Labour. Yep. Also,
interrupt you. Sorry. I want to thank you so much for the work you do, because you know just as well as we artists do how this world is, how sometimes ungrateful it is. Obviously, economically a sinkhole for all of us. There's no money to gain anywhere. The best thing you can do is trying to, get close to as much as you spend. That's almost a dream right now. So I really, really want to thank you what you're doing, all the exposure, all the work that you're doing for us artists that are less known bands out there that I really believe will be more appreciated if we had the exposure and the platform that people like you provide. Which that I just wanted to say, I really appreciate what you do.
Oh, thank you so much. I think my overarching theme as kind of an ex-cocaine addict, an ex-prisoner, and an ex-tortured soul. Some things linger, but nothing as bad as before. But I think my overarching kind of message that I would tell myself would have been to invest in this more and start this kind of stuff and invest in my talents earlier. And I can't go back and rewrite that. I can't write the music that I'd never would have written at that time, and I can't go back and change the mistakes that I've made, or the mistakes that were made unto me. So if I could interrupt someone earlier on that journey, whether they're an 18-year-old person instead of them finding themselves when they're 25, or if I'm helping a 60-year-old musician get him off the ground when he should have done it at 40. My overarching theme is to kind of encourage people to invest in their own innate talents as a way of surpassing the vicissitudes of life. And funnily enough, when I have this kind of thing as my purpose, everything else seems easier to handle. And yeah, so I found my place. And when people like yourself kind of see that, resonate that, and want to join in, I've had no experience of running a label. I've only working off stories, things that I've read and experiences I've had through the third party, through bands being signed and let down and ripped off. And I'm just like, I can't abide this. This is my legacy, you know. I'm just doing the best I can, like anyone.
And like I always say, like, the past does not exist. Technically, does not exist anymore. The only thing you can do is the present and what you can make happen in the future, right? So like, I do not believe things happen for a reason, but I do believe we can make them be for a good reason with our own actions. And sometimes, you know, like for me to be here in this good spot that I'm in right now in life, a lot of bad shit had to happen, right? Like, and it didn't happen because it was supposed to happen or to get me here, but I turned them into something that got me here, right? So I think, like, when you were talking about your past and the things that you cannot change, like, you made them be for a good reason, which is where you are at now. And that's all that matters. That's all we can do in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge words of wisdom there that, which can apply to everyone. It's almost a bit of a Buddhist philosophy. You know, sort of yesterday has passed, you know, tomorrow may never come. And it's very important that, you know, whilst we acknowledge the suffering of the human existence, we mustn't let it consume us. It's going to take chunks out of us. But I think the best thing that we can do is find some kind of purpose that ameliorates that. And and enjoy the simple things as well, you know.
Yeah, you know, like, I'm an existentialist, nihilist, positive nihilist, so I believe nothing matters. So nothing matters, right? It's like, I take it as a positive side. It's like, you know, my past obviously hurt me, hurt others, for sure. We all have hurt other people and hurt ourselves in the past. But in the grand scheme of things, just as it matters, it doesn't. So like, I have the liberty to rebuild myself now. What I want to do now, what I want to be now for others. So I'm very proud of looking at myself from 10 years ago and be like, you know, like, if you do that, that means you have grown, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I hope in 10 years I will look at my 42 years old self and be like, yeah, that was cringe as hell, you know, you didn't know better. That would mean I have grown and I've been trying to best myself and be the best I can, and that's all we can do. And I think you have come an incredible way, and I'm so happy for you. And I
Thank you.
really wish the best for you. I know, as I was saying, this musical world is incredibly difficult, but in the end, if it's our passion. So as long as it makes us happy, as long as it doesn't ruin us, which was my case in 2013.
Mm-hmm. What happened there?
Good.
What happened there? What was the...
So in 2013, from 2010 to 2013, I was in Werewolf, which was what my project Epsilon evolved into. So we went all in. We wanted to make it. We wanted to make it in this world. We went with this professional metal label. We went attorneys and everything, reviewing the contract. You know, the big thing.
Wow.
As a musician, what you think is gonna be the way of doing it, right? But you know, things have changed. Back in 2010, it was bad already. Now it's even worse. So this label was pretty much just taking 10,000, more than 10,000 because it was euros. I don't know, $13,000, something like that from us. And you know, we were like, okay, they can record certain amount of albums, and hopefully they can give us exposure. They can, I don't know, maybe record some music videos, whatnot. They record a really, I don't know. I'm not happy with our first album with Werewolf. It was very rushed. The producer did not know the music style that we were doing. They pretty much used our money immediately to buy a new motorcycle and a new Apple computer, and then they barely promoted us. They gave us shit concerts. They did not want to do any music video. They didn't really want to do anything because they don't. They just want to take money from a new artist that has hopes and dreams, and so it ended really bad. Like we weren't getting any money. We were just dropping money in the band, and it was causing me to feel very depressed, very stressed. So in 2013, January 1st of 2013, I told the band I was ending the project because it was making me unhappy, and it was my dream.
Yeah.
That's when I created SIDEQUEST, because like, okay, I still love music. I still love creating music. I still love recording music, and I do love playing live, but playing live was causing me far more issues than benefits. It was like too much stress of dealing with the venues, with dealing with the band, with dealing with the equipment, with the cost, with the selling tickets, with the promotion. It was just too much. And I love playing live, but it was not a good balance for me on benefits and costs. Right?
Yeah, you sort of, you sort of track the old adage, you travel in a £500 van, with with a couple £100 worth of fuel to pay a £50 gig, it's
exactly and we
with £5,000 worth of equipment, in the back.
5 hours road trips just to have like 3 people in the stage, which I don't mind playing for an almost empty venue, but it has to be some balance of how much I'm putting it out there. And so I created SIDEQUEST more as I love creating music. I love hearing my music well done, well written, well recorded. So I'm going to focus on the studio. I'm going to focus on releasing our studio. If we ever play live, great. If it ever booms and suddenly we become viral for whatever reason, great.
Yeah, but it'll be on your terms,
Yeah, it's going to be in my terms. It's going to be released at the times that I want, how I want, with the people I want, in the ways I want. And I'm very proud of what I have done with the albums, especially with the resources I had. Like, I had my music studio at home, which was another dream of mine to have. But I didn't invest like a lot of money on it. I bought my couple things here and there, and it works for me.
It slowly comes together, doesn't it?
Like, I think as long as you have the time to put on things, you can make things sound really good. Like I love the sounds of my new albums more than the sound I got on my first album with Werewolf in a really big professional studio that we recorded stuff.
Yeah. So it's amazing
because I had the time to put into let's record this until it sounds perfect. Let's edit this until it sounds perfect. I had the time to. A label like this did not have that time, did not want to give you that time.
No, going back on that story, I mean, it's, for me, I find that really repugnant, Okay, all right, you're joining a big boys club and all their friends and studio engineers, they're all expensive, and okay, yeah, all right, accept that world, I suppose, maybe as a cost of entry, but when it's all for nothing, and, it's musicianship that can keep people like you and I alive. And if you sap all of the passion out of that, then you're taking a huge risk at, you know, someone self-destructing, and it's really repugnant. That is absolutely disgusting behavior towards any human being. But I think it hurts more to a creative. That could stop someone playing a note ever again.
And it's exactly that. Like, you know, I was trying to live
about it.
That's what I love about you. You really, really, really feel this. You really have a passion, a personal interest, and a personal feeling and connection to it. That's why I love talking about it with you. And but exactly what you say. Like, I was living my dream, which was living and making it out with my music, and I was the most depressed I ever was, right? Which is another one of the songs.
Yeah, no, indeed. Well,
it's what it's about. It's like, it's making me incredibly unhappy, and it's my dream. But it is what it was. And you know, sometimes the things we want are not the things we need. Again, I don't think things happen for a reason, but I made it happen, so I will understand where my happy point, my happy middle is at. Which is like, okay, I wish I could have made it with the music,
but you have.
But at the same,
in your soul, you have.
Yes, but it's not what I expected.
No,
I expected, you know, touring the world and really actually, I didn't want to be a millionaire, but, you know, at least, you know, being able to live out of this. It's not what I expected, but it is what is making me happy, right? Yeah. Which is.
You can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on that. I mean, you've probably travelled around a bit. I've been to far-flung corners of the globe, mostly kind of places like Thailand, and you go to a village there, and it's like it was behind Europe by about 50 years, you know. And I met some of the happiest people in some of like circumstances which it took a while to comprehend. And it was a good lesson in humility. Being inside a prison is also similar experience, and happiness necessarily isn't lots of money and lots of fame. It's
sometimes it's not even what we want. Sometimes
sometimes
what we want is not what makes us happy.
Indeed. I think it's, you know, I think in some ways it's your story. You know, everyone is a kind of no one, and they think they want to be someone until they actually find out who they are. You know,
it's kind of like the main character, how it's called, syndrome. Like, you know, growing up, and this is another of the songs, just the story of No One Part 2, that is called Unspecial. I grew up as a kid feeling different, but also I had the conviction that I was better, right? Like, I was like, okay, I had all my peers, you know, the other kids, like, they don't think like I do. They don't think about the things I do. I was like always thinking like very philosophical stuff. I was deep into things in my mind all the time.
You probably got on
creative all the time,
and got on with older people as well. You know,
exactly. It was like, and Predator, which is a song that you like, is also a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that why are all these sheep, you know, like, me when I'm, you know, I'm the superior one, and I grew up like kind of like thinking like that, and then you know, life has a way of humbling the shit down of you, right? Like, perspective is like, oh wait, maybe I'm not the main character, which the song is called Unspecial, which the song is about the realization that I'm not that special. I have, you know, special traits, of course, and I leave a mark, but it's a kind of like a liberating feeling of, it's like, you're not the main character. Again, nothing matters.
Yeah,
right?
You don't have to live up to your own internalized narcissism, because that's quite draining.
Exactly. So that's what that song is about. It's a relief of realization that you are not special. You're just like everybody else. You have your good things and your bad things. That's okay.
Yeah, this is a thing that it's a method of thinking I've adopted whenever I'm kind of suffering or something kind of knocks me for six. I kind of just try and boil myself down to like a biological being. So I need feeding. I'm an ant in this whole thing. And it's somehow, if I minimize myself to that level, torture of whatever's going on and happening minimizes itself and often goes, well, you can't, how can all this affect something so insignificant, and it buggers off, and then I'm able to then build myself up and then get back onto stuff again.
Yeah, and like that's I think what I also like about astronomy. It puts things in perspective, right?
Yes, yeah.
Go back to
it's zooming out, isn't it?
Small, so insignificant that nothing matters, but at the same time, in our perspective, it matters. So okay, I don't know. My mistakes feel smaller when I think about the immensity of the universe. I think it's a similar.
Yeah.
Similar.
No, that's a similar viewpoint, and yeah, I totally comprehend that. Yeah, just because it's like zooming out, isn't it? You're this, all your problems, and you're this kind of big person with all these problems, and then just take the camera, zoom out, go to whatever 10,000 feet, then go be out of the Earth's orbit, then bugger off to the next solar system, and what the fuck are you? Yeah.
Exactly. And some of the songs I have in the Story of No One, both part 1 and 2, I put a lot of astronomy into it because first it's my passion, but second it describes that feeling as like I'm so small, like the Stargazer and the Story of No One part 1. I'm just a grain of sand. I'm just a star, which a star is a gigantic important thing in a solar system, but in a galaxy or in the universe, it's just one more thing lost, among trillions, right? So it's all about perspective, and I love that about astronomy, and also why I like to put it in my lyrics, because it really, really transmitted my feelings and thoughts about things.
Yeah, well, certainly in my universe, there are some stars that shine brighter than most, and both you as a human being and this SIDEQUEST project that you've created, you're definitely one of those stars. Sadly, we are kind of about 2 minutes left on the old cheaper kind of free version of Zoom clock. But I very highly suspect I'll be coming back for a part 2, because it's been an absolutely thoroughly enjoyable conversation, and I'm so glad to have connected with you, not only just as a listener, but after kind of doing everything that I've been doing and what you've been doing, we've actually connected again like this, and I'm working with you, and I'll try and push your stuff as much as I can.
I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time, and it's been absolutely lovely to talk with you today.
It's been great. Absolutely. Look, all the love from this corner of the world, and we'll be in touch soon.
Okay, you take care.
You too, man. Take care. Bye.
Things fall into place. As I'm becoming matter, I'm scattered, I'm whole. Nuclear synthesis, refuse to become someone. I'm no one, no more. My new tomorrow's here. My new tomorrow's here. My new tomorrow's here.